Hello.
Joe,
Ben, how are you?
how are you? I'm here with Dara and Brian.
Hi,
Say
Joe.
hello to them.
Hi Joe, how's it going?
Hey.
We brought you on because last week we were talking about the Galway Hurling Championship, and the whole issue of burnout has been risen again with the Galway Hurling final now going to be playing basically in Christmas week. What do you think of that?
Well, I think what's happening in Galway is just an absolute nightmare scenario for any county board. It all goes back. What happened in Galway is just there's a certain sense of inevitability about it. You have the GA rule book, for heaven's sake. You'd be quicker reading the Old Testament. Then you have bylaws. It's an absolute nightmare. Your average GA club official, secretaries, treasurers, they want to be barristers, for heaven's sake. So there's just a certain sense of inevitability about it. You mentioned Galway. I mean, you've got Gort who are going to play Portumna, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a coronation. Portumna are going to come and they're just going to crush, despite all the honest endeavour and effort and training that Gort are going to throw at them. Ultimately, they're going to walk away maybe 10 or 12 points.
Yeah, Brian, do you have a question for Joe after that?
Yeah, well Joe, I was just going to ask something actually completely on a tangent to what Ben said, but I was just wondering, Joe, have we reached a point in Gaelic football whereby it's become a war of attrition, where the more conservative defensive teams will actually come to the fore? Even Kerry, a team that were in transition this year, managed to out Donegal in the final.
Well, that's a mouthful.
I have it written down here, so.
Yeah.
But has it got to the point now where the skills of kicking and such things like this, like say that the purists such as Pat Spillane would be preaching about, has it become secondary importance, do you think?
Well, I wouldn't pay too much attention to what Pat would say because he's living in a bygone era. It's interesting you just mentioned. People spoke about Throne. Mickey Hart, he developed this monster, people used to say. And then you had Jim McGuinness. He did the very same thing. Any other county can do it. They were trying to do it in Mayo. They tried to do it in Galway and other counties. Cork were looking. Meath tried to do it. But at the end of the day, it's nigh and impossible unless you have the players. Throne had the players. Stephen O'Neill. He's like an artist, left foot, right foot, over the bar. Incredible. Donegal, McFadden, Michael Murphy, Kerry, Starr, who just came on this year, just produced an absolute tour de force in the All-Ireland final. So I think you can have other counties and, teams will talk about systems and setups. And it's all a bit of a fallacy in reality because at the end of the day, it boils down to players. And if it was that easy winning All-Ireland, you'd have teams like, no disrespect to Carlo and Offaly and Loud, if it was just as simple as setting up defensively, then we'd be throwing out All-Irelands like confetti. But ultimately, the team that wins is the team with the best players.
Joe, there's kind of a culture coming into GA with beards. And Paul Galvin kind of started them. I know Micheál Lundy in Galway has a pretty impressive beard. What do you think of beards?
I suppose I was always one of these guys. No matter how long I tried, it just wouldn't look right. I looked like maybe a serial killer from the 1970s in Great Britain or somewhere if I tried to grow a beard. Look at your average GA player now. They're fashionistas, they're with dicky bows, they tweet about American football and baseball. For heaven's sake, what the hell do they know about it? You have all these guys on social media and they're the common, I think, metrosexual is the word used. For heaven's sake, back in my day, if you ran out on the pitch, I remember playing in a league match against Meath. Mid-lines, I was wearing a white pair of gloves. I was nearly taken to intensive care. The crack I got after coming out. I can tell you one thing, that was the last time I wore those gloves. I suppose it's society and it's, beards and that, and look, I suppose I was never one that could be ever classified as a type of fashionista or anything like that, but I suppose whatever floats your boat.
Joe, just as a point to that, do you think there's sort of too much emphasis on the celebrity side now of certain GAA players, like Paul Galvin, I suppose?
Well, I think it goes back now to your average GA player. Most of them, there's such a demands placed on players now. A lot of them are students or teachers or Gardaí or, the day of your local farmer or builder. And lots of guys when I played with Derry, they were roofers and block layers. So I think the dynamic of your inter-county football or hurler is changing. These guys are in their early 20s and they're more culturally aware. So I think, it comes with it. But there's no problem with celebrity when you bring in Sam Maguire home. Nobody can say a word to the guys that are, the medals in their back pockets. Mm-hmm. You see that in Kilkenny and Brian Cody there. And there's none of it. You don't hear any of these guys, Henry Shefflin or Tommy Walsh, tweeting about the Florida Marlins or some other random team that no one cares about, but it sounds good when you put it on Twitter. It's just in modern society.
Yeah.
Brian has a final question to you, Joe.
All right, Joe, I was reading the Sunday Independent there yesterday and saw an article by Stephen Hunt where he hit back at something that Joe had said previously about Premier League footballers not being role models. I was just wondering, what is it that separates Gaelic footballers from soccer players in that context?
I suppose it's an interesting question because, I played with Anthony Toole. Anthony Toole played in a game for Manchester United.
That's right, I saw that on Second Captains. Yeah, that's right.
There's lots of guys playing inter-county that have gone. Darren O'Sullivan, he played over in England for a few years. There's lots of guys at North. Brendan Devaney from Donegal is a terrific striker. Absolutely amazing. I would have no doubt that he would have made it had he concentrated. I suppose culturally and historically here, the culture is young fellas, 8 or 9 or 10 years of age. You bring them football training and some guys are playing a bit of rugby or, they're playing soccer and all these other games. But ultimately it's the GAA family, that dictates from a societal point of view where most of our young fellas are going to end up playing. And, statistically, you can look at the figures. There might only be a handful of Irish guys playing Premier League football. But for heaven's sake, our population is about a 15th of the United Kingdom, for heaven's sake. We're 4.5 million people. People are saying, how come there's a golden generation in soccer, they're gone and they're, Ireland aren't producing. It's a numbers game, for heaven's sake. And sure, most of the guys playing in the Irish team, it's their passports or their grandmother rule or something like that.
Yeah, yes.
I don't think there's a fall off in numbers or, what separates these players, whether they're soccer or Gaelic football. Of course, these guys in England, they're, 20 or 30 sterling a week, sitting on a bench. Absolute disgraceful.
Joe, just before you go, I want to tell the lads something. We've been recording for the last 8 minutes, and ye haven't been talking to Joe Brolly.
You don't say.
That's not.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
That's not Joe Brolly.
Well, that's news to me, for heaven's sake.
His name is Aidan Tierney. He's from Galway. And as you can tell, that's an incredible Joe Brolly impression.
It is fantastic, yeah.
Thank you very much. For heaven's sake, what are you laughing about, for heaven's sake? This is supposed to be serious conversation.
What's your Twitter again, Aidan? Is it at Tierney Talks?
At Tierney Talks, yeah.
And your YouTube?
Aidan Tierney.
Aidan Tierney. Well, you definitely
Look it up, check it out.
Had me done.
Yeah.
You definitely had Brian confused with his stupid questions.
Yeah.
And when we were actually coming up up the stairs, they're coming up to record it, and Brian was there saying to me, I've got some killer questions for Joe now. I can't wait to ask him.
Never forget when it comes to questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah.
Because a broken clock is right twice a day.
All right, thanks, Aidan.
Cheers.
Okay.